Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Triple Double Nation. Today we're looking at what the Nets must do to get to the NBA Finals next year. Let's get right into the video. The Brooklyn Nets turbocharged their offense to take down any defense in their path, but they couldn't guard themselves against the injury bug, which pestered them throughout the season and helped bring about their playoff demise. None of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, or James Harden played 55 games this season. They took the court together just 8 times in the regular season and logged 130 minutes in the playoffs. Once the curtain finally closed on their campaign Saturday night, Irving watched from the sideline because of a sprained right ankle. James Harden hobbled on a right hamstring he has battled off and on for 3 months, and Kevin Durant was trying to summon his superpowers in his first season back from a torn Achilles. If anyone needs a summer of rest, recovery, and as much relaxation as possible, it's these 3. But this can't be a sleepy summer for general manager Sean Marks and his front office. The Nets need to keep capable contributors around their stars with a host of players heading to free agency and limited flexibility to work with. Brooklyn's Big Three is owed a combined $114.8 million next season, and another $26.4 million is tied up between Joe Harris and DeAndre Jordan. This won't be easy, so we're here to provide a helpful 5-step guide to the Nets offseason. Number 1, re-sign Bruce Brown. Brown can't score an endorsement with Elmer's, he might need new representation. Star-studded rosters, a description that fits this Brooklyn team, like few before it, need glue guys to properly function, and Brown is basically a human adhesive. He's a 6'4", 202-pounder who's listed as a guard but often functions as a screen-setting big on offense and checks just about anyone on defense. It's been fun to watch him develop into this role, this version of a Swiss Army knife for us, Nets coach Steve Nash said, per Boston.com's Tom Westerholm. We all recognize his value. Speaking of that value, it's about to increase dramatically. In economic terms, at least. Restricted free agency awaits the 24-year-old, which means a mountain of cash is headed his way. All winning teams can use a player like him, which isn't something you can say about many modern guards, with shooting limitations. But his defensive intensity, fully revved motor, rim attacks, flexibility as a ball handler and playmaker, and willingness to play on all guts, little glory role combined to form quite the on-court asset. The Nets need to treat him as such when they sit down at the negotiating table. Number 2, explore sign and trade options with Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie has a $12.3 million player option for next season. When he's healthy, which he hasn't been since suffering a partial ACL tear in his right knee in late December, he's better than a $12.3 million player, and he knows it. $12 million isn't market value for a starting point guard, Dinwiddie told Forbes Shlomo Sprung. It's probably about half, 20 to 25, so obviously it's pretty concrete that I'm going to opt out. It's fair for Dinwiddie to compare his value to that of a starting point guard because he's been productive in that role before. Just last season, he was one of only 13 players to average 20 points and 6 assists. But there's an obvious catch here. The Nets already have a starting point guard. They basically have 2, and they're both established all-stars in Harden and Irving. That's as good of an indication as any Dinwiddie is ready to take his talents elsewhere. That's probably just as well, since the Nets are one of the few teams that don't need his offense. He's suited up 3 times all season, and they still produced 118.3 offensive rating, the most efficient attack in NBA history. Assuming Dinwiddie is walking out the door, Brooklyn needs to try working with him to try setting up a sign and trade that brings back something in return. Even if the biggest asset is just a trade exception, that could be a big get for a club with limited flexibility. Number 3, spend the mid-level exception on a stopper. The Nets didn't have this season's worst defense. They ranked 22nd overall in the game's less glamorous end, but that was the second worst mark among all playoff participants and felt at least in the ballpark of a fatal flaw. The Nets were so absurdly explosive offense, they made you think they could overcome their defensive deficiencies, but it sliced down their margin for error considerably. Their options were so limited they entrusted Blake Griffin, a wobbly defender during his prime, as the primary matchup for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the MVP of the past 2 seasons. Brooklyn's roster basically reads like a direct challenge to the cliche that defense wins championships. The Nets seemingly placed a wager that their firepower was enough to sink any opponent 4 times in a 7-game series. Had they stayed healthy, maybe they would have been proven right. Still, one would assume some level of investment will be made in this defense, and the Nets have the taxpayer mid-level exception to go sign a stopper. Last offseason, that would have been enough to ink Garrett Temple, Avery Bradley, Maurice Harkless, James Ennis III, Chris Dunn, or Josh Jackson. A player of this ilk wouldn't transform Brooklyn's defense, but it would give the Nets more options to put in front of opposing incendiary scorers. Number 4, try to keep the vets. Jeff Green joined the Nets on a veterans minimum pact in November. Blake Griffin arrived in March after being bought out by the Detroit Pistons. Both subsequently became less essential parts of the rotation. Going into Game 7, Green and Griffin ranked 5th and 6th respectively in playoff points and minutes per game. They hold significant spots in Nash's circle of trust, and it would help next season's squad if that's still true on the other side of each player's venture into free agency. But this probably comes down to economics. Brooklyn is so invested in its stars, plus Jordan for some reason, it only has so much to spread among the supporting cast. Splurging on Griffin and Green, who don't help the defensive woes and aren't major needle movers on offense anymore, doesn't make sense. What could, though, is a reunion at a reasonable rate that allows the ringless 30-somethings to help the Nets chase the crown again next season. Number 5, find at least one rotation player on draft night. At one point, Marks was forced to make do without any draft assets. Those days are behind Brooklyn. The Nets have their own first-round pick, which landed 27th overall. They also hold 3 second-round picks from different deals. Numbers 44, 49, and 59. That's enough draft ammunition to find at least one player who fits the next season's rotation. Be that a rookie pulled from one of these selection spots, or an established player acquired for some combination of the picks. Assuming Brooklyn stands pat at number 27, it might target experience, readiness, and either defense, shooting, or both. Michigan State's Aaron Henry, Baylor's Jared Butler, Gonzaga's Joey Ayeyi, Illinois' Ayo Dosunmu, Villanova's Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and Virginia's Trey Murphy all fit the mold of an early contributor. The Nets don't have room for 4 rookies, so look for Marks to put at least some of these picks in play. If Brooklyn left draft night with an upperclassman prospect and a player with NBA experience, that would be close to a best-case scenario. Add a feature draft pick to the haul, and you're probably talking about an A-plus kind of night for the Nets. Number 6, the burning question. How will the Nets fill out their roster this offseason? The Nets are in a difficult spot to put talent around their big 3 because they have no cap space to sign potential free agents this offseason. Did Green and Griffin play too well to shed their veteran minimum contracts? Or will they be willing to put money aside at this point in their respective careers to continue a pursuit for a championship ring in Brooklyn? What types of offers will Brown receive as a restricted free agent? The 24-year-old Swiss Army knife proved he can play anywhere from point guard to center this season, and his contributions to the Nets' success just may have put a price tag on his head that is too rich for Brooklyn to afford. Number 7, one key stat. 12. The total number of games, regular season and playoffs combined, the Nets' big 3 played together this season. Despite acquiring Harden 13 games into the season, Brooklyn's big 3 could not stay healthy enough to maximize the team's potential. The idea was that if the Nets could have all 3 superstars at full strength by the start of the playoffs, the team would contend for a championship. We saw the slightest glimpse of that in the gentleman's sweep of the Boston Celtics in the first round of the postseason, as the trio combined to average 85.2 points per game, the most by a threesome in NBA playoff history. When Harden went down with a hamstring injury with just 43 seconds into Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, that hope of the Big 3 staying healthy was put in jeopardy. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy, please leave a like rating down below, and comment if the Nets will make it to the NBA Finals next year. See you guys next time. Have a great day.